2025, damn, it feels good to be doing the first review for The Damned. Let's go. The Damned stars Odessa Young, Joe Cole, Louis Gribben, and is directed by Thordur Paulson.
We should not be here.
Help me! Help me!
What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new 2025 review. That's the first time I've said that. And you know what? Before I get into this, I don't know what it is, but there's always something about the first review of every new year. It's almost like recharging your batteries, a cleansing, I guess, pick your metaphor. But I don't know. I just love it. I even if it's a bad movie, I love the first review of any new year. It's just cool. This might be the first review I've done of the year that happens to be a foreign film, even though they speak the English language. But this was, I think, from an Irish company. But the story takes place on this Icelandic fishing village. And it's very much akin to movies like The Thing and especially The Fog. And we're going to get more into that here after a quick plot synopsis. So this is set in the late 1800s. It's this small fishing community. And it's one female and the rest are males. And the female, her husband had died previously, I think a couple of years back. And he was, I guess, the leader of them. And now she is kind of by default the leader. And she's actually a very good leader, very effective, very calm. She knows, she's not afraid to dish out orders to people. And she knows how to do it without coming off as, a dick. Or I guess in this case, a bitch. And let me just wedge this in here right now. Odessa Young, who plays Eva, the leader of this clan, I absolutely loved her. It's not just about the acting, although she is fantastic. But sometimes I don't think we give casting directors enough credit because she just really fell into this role beautifully. She feels very much like the character. And more importantly, she's very capable as a leader, as from an actor's standpoint, portraying a leading role with finesse. Because I think most people, when they're doing a leading role, most like novice actors, they would approach that thinking they need to act a certain way, almost like a drill sergeant. But there's so many different sides of being a leader. And I think they do a beautiful job of addressing that in this. But where the story kicks in, times are hard. Food is scarce, and the community, they're starting to really worry, and they want to look out for themselves. And this is something that we even see today. This movie has universal themes for sure. And they are put in a position where they can take on a Good Samaritan type role. And they refuse to do that because of self-preservation. And that's where this thing kicks into gear. But when they do this, they kind of unleash this curse. And this is where the horror of the movie is set into motion. There's a heavy sense of paranoia amongst the community. They're fighting amongst each other. And they're seeing things that may or may not be there. And there's just this heavy sense of guilt. All these characters are dealing with this situation in different ways. And of course, they are going to clash amongst each other. Now, this film is just beautifully directed across the board. Beautiful score, beautiful cinematography. You feel cold when you are actually watching this movie. And I love movies that are set in the winter. Not necessarily like a holiday Christmas movie, but just winter type movies like The Thing. And you can tell they're filming this on location. They're not using snow machines. Or at least it doesn't look like they're using snow machines because everybody looks like they are really cold. And the theater that I was seeing this in they had the temperature way down and I felt cold. So I guess it just added to the effect of the movie and I really had to pee after. Also, I think this movie knows exactly the mood that it wants to set. It doesn't want to depend on, I guess, your typical like jump scares. This is more centered around the story and the story itself being creepy enough. And there are some really creepy visuals throughout this. this, but it's directed at a very mature level. I was even thinking if Robert Eggers got a hold of this script and this story and he directed this, I think it would have taken it up, a few more notches, because he's just that great of a director, especially when it comes to period pieces. Not taking anything away from Thordur Paulson, who does a phenomenal job directing this film. I have no complaints in that department at all. And I think if Eggers did this movie, I think it would have been a little bit more artistic in nature. And I think he would have even made it creepier than it already is. But maybe that's just a thing with foreign films too. I think they know how to handle horror and scares a lot better than we do in the States. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but every foreign film I've watched, foreign horror film, they're just a little bit creepier. And this is no exception. Now let's talk about The Thing and The Fog, because I could not help but think of both of those movies as I was watching this, and I couldn't help but appreciate John freaking Carpenter. The guy's influence spans not just nationwide, but internationally. You could just see the inspiration in this movie to those two films. I would even go as far as to say, because of the setting of this movie being in the late 1870s, and when does the first Fog take place? In the late 70s, or pretty much 1980, right? And that movie was about a horrible situation that happened 100 years ago, which is around the time this movie takes place. And this is just a very similar story. I mean, if you wanted to take the leap, you could literally say that this is an origin story of The Fog with Thordur Paulson's own stamp on it. I would say the scares and the way they're handled are different in this movie than they are in The Fog, but still very effective. And then, of course, the thing with this community, and they are just at each other's throats after this. And there's a line in this movie that one of the characters says that really stayed with me. He said, "The living are far more deadly than the dead." And I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like that. And I love when you have, I guess, signature lines in horror movies. And I think that's the takeaway line from this movie, because they all start turning on each other. And whether there are ghosts or not, it doesn't even matter. And this movie left me with a chill at the very last frame. I loved it. And one little anecdote that I noticed too, there was hardly anybody in the theater, but there was this one pivotal scene in the last act that was huge. Right before the scene, this old guy in the front row got up and walked out of the theater. I thought he was just leaving for good. The scene happens, and then as soon as the scene is over, the old guy walks right back in, and I literally wanted to stand up and say, "You missed it!" So I guess the lesson here is pee before you go into the theater, especially with horror movies, because as they go along, they get more and more intense, the good ones. And you don't want to miss anything. And I felt bad for that guy. He missed, I think, one of the best scenes of the movie, or if anything, one of the most pivotal scenes in the movie. And I think when you watch this, you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about. So guys, what a great start to the year. I can't recommend this enough. Giving it a high purchase worthy for sure. I would say be a little patient with it. It takes its time setting things up, but once it gets going, it never stops, right? I'd say this is a good slow burn. And it's lean too. It's only 90 minutes long, so it flies right by. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think of this, so let me know down in the comments. Also guys, we're nearing the end of my end of year top 10s. I just recorded, right before I left for this movie, top 10 non-horror movies. I got to record the worst non-horror movies of the year, and then we get into the most anticipated of 2025, my horror list. And I've already got some movies that I think are coming out early in this year. And I think I got a list of at least 5 of them. So looking forward to getting those out. Thank you guys for watching too. Also be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. On Fridays, we do Free Fridays. Follow my Drumdums on my socials, support me on Patreon. Become a channel member, buy me a coffee. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.